Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm so glad to see you all in our audience, people joining us from all over the world. Such a pleasure to see all of us unite over genealogy and family history. These sessions are just so great. They're such a wonderful chance for us all to learn from the experts. And what an expert do we have lined up for you today. We can't wait for today's session. So excited about this one. Well, really, we're excited about all of them. We love all of these Facebook Lives that we do. And today's especially, it's going to be a great one. Oh, I see someone saying there's no sound. Are other people experiencing sound issues? If you can just write in the comment section, let us know if you can hear me, because I see there was a comment here that there was a sound problem. Oh, I see other people are able to hear. So I hope that everyone is able to tune in. Thank you all for writing in the comments and letting us know where you're joining from. We love seeing all over, seeing all these different locations. So thank you all for putting that in there. For anyone who's new to our Facebook Live sessions, these are recorded and you can rewatch them after. We often suggest it to our viewers because there's just so much information learned and it's just so much to take in. So definitely we encourage you to go back and rewatch the sessions. They are all available on the MyHeritage Facebook page under the videos section. So this one as well will be available there, as well as all the others. So make sure to check those out. In addition, for today's show, we will be doing a draw and giving away a MyHeritage Complete Plan to one lucky viewer. So we're really excited to give this away to one viewer today. All that you have to do is leave us a comment in the comment section and let us know about something that you've uncovered, whether it be small or big, some piece of information or new relative that you discovered through MyHeritage historical records. We recently added two new huge record collection sets. One is newspaper name indexes and another is Scottish census records. We'll put links to those announcements in the comment section. And we are now up to 15 billion historical records on MyHeritage. So a huge amount of historical records on MyHeritage. Let us know what you've uncovered in those historical records. And we'll be giving away a MyHeritage Complete Plan. So what does the Complete Plan give you? The Complete Plan is the best plan that we have to offer on MyHeritage. It'll give you unlimited access to all of those 15 billion historical records, limited access to all of the photo tools that we have on MyHeritage. That's the MyHeritage Photo Enhancer, MyHeritage in Color, MyHeritage Photo Repair, and Deep Nostalgia. And it'll also give you unlimited family tree size and much, much more. So it's just a great plan. And if you already have a plan, you can gift it, and you can gift it to a family member. So a lot of opportunities here. And we're looking forward to giving that away to one lucky winner. So now I'm going to introduce our rock star guest that we have today. We have with us Lisa Louise Cooke. She's the owner and CEO of Genealogy Gems, a multimedia production company. She's the producer and host of the popular online family history show, Genealogy Gems podcast. And she's just such an expert in genealogy news, research strategies, and just everything having to do with family history and genealogy. And we love having her on our show. It's not our first time. So if you want to go back into our archives as well, I suggest that you go check out the other sessions that she has joined us for, because they are also just excellent. Let me bring her onto the show to say hello to everyone. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Esther. And I love being at MyHeritage Live here on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere we stream. So it's so good to be back. Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. We love having you on our show.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited because we're going to be rocking and rolling the soon to be released 1950 census. So what do you think? Should we just jump into it?
Sure. I actually hear you twice. I don't know. I hear a little bit of an echo. Maybe we can just fix that before we jump into the
Okay.
presentation.
Let me look. I'm going to look at my audio settings real quick. It's coming out of this microphone, but you're getting it twice, huh? Is it because my speakers are on? I can turn my speakers off. Let me try that. So I've turned my speakers all the way off. Does that help?
I think it's a little bit better.
Good.
Okay, we'll stop you in the middle if we see that the echo is still there. But I think it's great, and we're good to go.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to jump over to our presentation here.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about using my heritage to prepare to rock the 1950 census. And it's just around the corner, and there's so much that we can do now. So I just want to give you some really practical ideas of ways that you can get ready to go. As Esther said, I am Lisa Louise Cooke, and I do the Genealogy Gems podcast, which My Heritage is our wonderful, wonderful sponsor. And I've been doing that since 2007. I also do a weekly show. If you're over on YouTube, you can find me there too. Type in Genealogy Gems or Lisa Louise Cooke, and we have a YouTube channel. We do a weekly live show called 11s is with Lisa. In fact, that's where this presentation's original idea came from, but we're going to put all kinds of new spin on it today. And I also host the Family Tree Magazine podcast. So let's talk about what you can learn from the 1950 census. And what you see here on your screen is the census form itself. And some of the things that you can learn about are where your family was living in 1950. If you had an American relative who was living abroad, they were getting recorded for the first time here in the 1950 census. And what your relatives did for a living, what their household income was back in 1949, their birthplace, if they were foreign born, and if your relatives were immigrants, where were they naturalized and maybe when. So that's just a smattering of just some of the things that you're going to be able to learn from the census. It's going to add so much rich information to your genealogy. So let's dig into the 1950 census. Hold your horses. It isn't available yet. I know that's a little anticlimactic, but there is a lot that you can do. It's going to be released. The party is going to get started in April of 2022. And my friends, that is just around the corner. So right now is the time to get acquainted with the census, familiar with what it has, what it's going to offer you, how it's laid out, and being ready to search it. It's going to be released in April of 2022. It comes and it's released by the National Archives to many different locations. I'm sure My Heritage will be one of them. I don't know. I'm not in the know on that, but we certainly would expect that. And we have to wait here in the U.S. 72 years. There's not a really super clear reason on that. Some people tend to think it's about the average lifespan. Of course, that has expanded over the years. It's actually, I think, sort of related to when the National Archives was first founded. But regardless, the rule is you have to wait 72 years to get the census. So we are looking forward to it. And that's because the original official census date was April 1st of 1950. So to get familiar, one of the things that we can do in getting ready is getting familiar with the form itself. And not just the form, but the questions they're going to be asking. This is going to help us to know what's going to be possible in terms of our research. And so one of the first things you can do is head to census.gov and go there and download the form at the United States Census Bureau website. It's absolutely free. You can download it. There's 2 pages that you'll see there, and you'll get a chance to really take a look. As you can see, every year it gets more and more elaborate. Now, we're not going to go into every single question because you're going to download the form and check it out for yourself. But I would encourage you, go check out my episode 53 if you're interested in really digging into all the questions and the kind of the meaning behind them and things to keep in mind as you're researching. Okay, so there's also going to be a new survey on residential financing, and that was also conducted in 1950. Now, this is a separate effort, and information was collected on a sample basis. So, not everybody answered this questionnaire. And it was taken with owners of owner occupied and rental properties and mortgage lenders. So this may not end up on the genealogical websites like MyHeritage, where we're not going to be necessarily digging into this, but just be aware that this residential survey exists. And I'm going to keep my ear out for where it might get released. I would expect we might be able to find this on the National Archives website, but we have a few more months to wait to find out about that. But it would be interesting to get our hands on. Okay, so things that you can do while you're waiting. The first thing was to download the form. Okay, the second thing that we need to do is to review your family tree and get refamiliar. Chances are you've been working further back in time, right, on your family tree, but now we need to come forward much closer to you and kind of reacquaint ourselves with all of the people. Identify the people that you want to look up in the 1950 census. In other words, kind of get a game plan. So I like to just go to the MyHeritage website, and under Family Tree, we pull up our tree, and I would set it initially at the full 5 generations view. Certainly, I don't think that 5 generations back anybody will be alive in 1950, but from here, we can then kind of zoom in on the tree and start looking back from ourselves and going back through the generations. Look at those death dates. And what we're looking for is, what generation is the first one where we see people who are alive after 1950, because they would be captured in the census. And really, from my tree, that's this generation right here. So I can go back and I can filter the generations on my family tree at MyHeritage just down to 3. And therefore, I am looking at people in the top row, the 3rd generation back, who were alive during 1950. Not everybody was, but many people were. And then I can kind of come forward from there. So that's just a really quick and easy way to kind of just review your tree and get those people in front of you. But I do have a second way that I would encourage you to do. I did this and I'm really excited about it. What I did was I ran a Family Tree Builder Death After 1949 report. Okay, so this isn't a report that's already built. I'm going to show you how to find it and how to create it. But Family Tree Builder is the free genealogy software that MyHeritage makes available. And what you're going to do, if you're not already using it, maybe you're just using the online version of the Family Tree, go and install the Family Tree Builder software from the MyHeritage website. You can do that for free. And then sign into your MyHeritage account. And what you're going to do is synchronize your online tree with the Family Builder software that's going to be on your computer. So why are we doing this? Because the builder has some of these reports built in that we don't necessarily have access to when we're working with it online on the website. So we're going to get lots more to work with. Okay, so in the menu, I am going to click the Reports button that's in the software. And I'm going to select the Export Custom Report, because we're going to make our own custom report to gather together the people who died after 1949. So you're looking at the pop-up window here. We're going to come down under People, and we're going to click and select Search Criteria. And then we're going to click the Select button to kind of enter in our criteria. So under Facts, in the Facts section, we're going to look at the type, and we're going to set this to death. There's lots of different types of facts that you can create reports. And I tell you, the more you look at this, you just get all kinds of ideas on what you can do with it. But for our purposes, we're going to set it to death. And our conditions for who do we want in terms of these death records of people is facts matching the conditions below. Okay, so we want to match specific conditions. Make sure that's set under death. And then date equals matches. And we're going to come over here and we're going to click the date editor icon so we can set the date. And here We want the dates for after, so go set it to after, not before, after the year, and enter the year 1949. You see where we're going with this? We're creating our own custom report so that we can gather all people from our family tree who died after 1949 and get them in one report. So come down here and click the OK button. And what this is going to do is automatically generate for you a Excel spreadsheet. And if you don't have Excel, it's going to be a .csv. You're going to be able to bring that into other types of programs as well. So this is my Excel spreadsheet, and you can see I've highlighted column M. These are all people who died after 1949. So this is like creating a really quick spreadsheet research worksheet, a research log for my 1950 preparation. And I went in and I just started kind of editing it a little bit, maybe adding an extra column for my research questions that I'm developing. Maybe I want to add a column for additional items that we're about to gather here in just a moment. So you can come back and tweak this and really make it your own ongoing research log as you move closer to April of 2022. While we're reviewing our tree, we also want to look for gaps and questions that we might be able to answer based on the questions that the census gives us. So one of the things I like to do is in my heritage, I'm going to go to the family tree in the menu and click consistency checker. The consistency checker is going to go through and show you where you have maybe some problem areas in your family tree. And that's going to give you some opportunities. You're going to look at those and see, are there any things that fall within this time frame that the 1950 census could help me with? We're going to add that. So the 1950 census, it can help you confirm what you've already found. It can provide you new facts and clues for further genealogical research. So this is the perfect time to start developing genealogy research questions. And you can add those to your report spreadsheet that you created so that you've got it all in one place. The third thing that we can do as we're preparing for the 1950 census is look for those 1950 addresses of our family members. So we always, in genealogy, start at home. I've been doing that, going through one of my closets and going through all this paperwork and things I have yet not put into nice, neat binders. So old letters, diaries, scrapbooks. Get on the phone, text people, ask your relatives if anybody's got an old Rolodex. I actually found one of my grandmother's old Rolodexes. It's got all kinds of addresses in it. So here's a postcard from my paternal grandmother, and it was postmarked in 1945. So this is a really good potential address to check out. We might need addresses because we're going to need to, if we want to search the census before it's name indexed, we may need to know where people are located so we can actually go in and browse the records, the digital images, before they get indexed, and we can get a head start on finding people. I'm also going to go to my heritage to find more of these types of addresses for these ancestors who lived past 1950. So I'm going to look at city directories. Lots of vital records will have addresses, schools, newspapers, wonderful resource. I found addresses in military records. So you can take this little checklist, you can search by name or head to the catalog, the collections catalog, and just start pulling up each one of these areas and finding the documents and the records that are going to pertain to your ancestors so that you can find some of these addresses. And you can enter these, again, into your research spreadsheet. So why do you need all those addresses? Like I said, before the census is indexed, you might not want to wait. So you're going to need to know where people were living. And I just think it's really interesting thing to gather anyway. So it's a fun thing to add to your family tree, just knowing where people were living at that particular time. Well, that brings us to number 4, which is to find the enumeration district numbers for those locations and the maps, because there are physical maps that are available digitally. So the 1950 census covered the continental United States, but it covered even more than that. They also took the census in the territories of Alaska and Hawaii. They weren't states yet. They also went to American Samoa, the Canal Zone, Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands of the United States, and some of the smaller island territories. So it covered a lot. And back in 1950, we're talking about half the population, around 150 million people. So how in the world did enumerators, the people who took the census, know where to go and how to reach and which of these 150 million people they were supposed to be talking to? Well, it was all organized through enumeration districts, and these are called EDs. We think of them as EDs. So you've seen on census records in the past, ED and a number. Well, that really told you what the location of your ancestor was for that census taker. So it defines the geographic region that the census taker is supposed to cover. And it's assigned to one single enumerator. And that just makes sure that they're not crossing paths and mistakenly double enumerating people. And it was also designed so that a single census enumerator could cover this area in just about 2 to 4 weeks. So they should be able to accomplish their goals realistically and cover as much as possible within that time frame. So the enumeration districts were drawn up in these detailed maps. They give us kind of a glimpse of our ancestors' neighborhood. Even if you decide, well, I want to wait for the index, I'm not going to bother trying to find people before the index gets done, I would suggest still, it's really interesting to get these maps. They're available for free, and they give you a sense of what the neighborhoods and the town looked like at that time, how it was laid out, what was there, what wasn't there yet. So as you notice in orange here on this 1950 enumeration district map, the ED number is written, and you can see the orange lines are kind of defining. Some sections are bigger, but they don't have as many actual neighborhood addresses. Some are smaller, but they are densely populated. So this is the map that they're working from. Now, EDs don't fall under the 72-year rule, which is great because you can get your hands on them now. And it takes time for the entire census to get indexed. So if you're like me and you're really anxious to get this going, these are what you're going to need. And the maps are instrumental because if you know where ancestors lived, of course, you can find them on their address on the ED map. You've pulled the addresses out of the documents you found at MyHeritage, and you get that number. Now you can go and search the unindexed census until it's all indexed. And there are over 8,000 digitized ED maps already available. They're at the National Archives website. They are part of Record Group 29, and it's called Enumeration Districts and Related Maps 1880 to 1990 series. So that's the name. In fact, the easiest way to find it on the National Archives website is just to Google the name of that series. It'll pop right up and take you to that page. However, the easiest way to get the maps and to find them is not through the National Archives website. It's actually through stevemorse.org's website. And Steve is a longtime genealogist who's been making all these one-step tools available. We've used them to help find passenger lists and all kinds of things from some of the websites. Unlike MyHeritage, which has such a strong and excellent search engine, Ellis Island's website for passenger lists and the National Archives, they're not as search friendly by far. So Steve Morse's website will actually help you find these maps. You can enter the state and the town, and then find the addresses that you collected over at MyHeritage on the ED map, and then just make note of the ED number on that report spreadsheet that you ran from the Family Tree Builder. I would also encourage, while you're there over at Steve's website, he's got a really great essay, which is worth taking a few minutes to read now, since you have to wait anyway until April. The essay is called Problems Using 1950 Enumeration District Maps. It's available for free on the website, and there might be the rare occasion that you do run into some challenges or things aren't adding up the way you thought that they would. You're not finding who you thought you'd find. His essay will help you solve some of those challenges. And the one-step site does include some maps that aren't even found on the National Archives. Steve has done a tremendous amount of work pulling all these resources together. So that's why I really like going there instead, but you can use either one. If you have the actual address, now you can search just by town and at least get zeroed in on the town, and then you can kind of manually look at it and find the area and get that map from the National Archives through Steve's site. However, if you have the exact address, wow, that's even better because you can come up here on his website to US Census, and we are going to click that. And here we're going to come down. There's a lot of resources here, but we are looking for the Unified 1880 to 1950 Census ED Finder. This little link here is going to take us to a tool. Now, you see the house number and the street is crossed out, but that's because we haven't selected county and town yet. So first we're going to select state, then come down to the county level. So we'll select county from the drop-down menu. And so I'm looking at my grandmother's home. I'm going to go to San Joaquin County, California, and the town was Stockton. And you can see it only gave me towns available in that county. And immediately we get all the ED numbers. Fantastic. Okay, well, I know the house number, and notice it's unblocked now. So I can put in 21 and come down, and it will give me all the available streets. Arcade was the street. And with that, there's just 3 little links there where Arcade stretched along that street. It spanned over 3 EDs is what I'm trying to say. The street of Arcade spanned over those 3 EDs. So you can click on more details to get a little more descriptions about this. And as I'm looking at this, it shows me the cross streets, and I know immediately which one is my grandmother's. It would be 75-1 because she lived near El Dorado, and it was Arcade. So it gives you a sense of where it might fit on the map. But there's only a couple, so, guess what? You can't click through and actually see the census. So he's already got the links there ready to go. But we're going to be finding that over at probably MyHeritage anyway. But what we are going to be able to do is come over here and look at the enumeration districts. So that told me my enumeration district number. When those images get published, I'm going to be able to browse those images before there's ever an index finished, although the index is going to be great. Now, I like to upload this map to MyHeritage because look at the difference. It's just a little cleaner, a little brighter, probably looks a little bit more like it did when it was originally created. Take some of that fuzz out of there. So I clicked enhance and I restored the color too. So restore the colors, it makes a difference. And while you're here, you've uploaded it to MyHeritage. So I'm going to tag my grandparents. This is where they lived. So I'm going to type in Elfrida. My grandmother pops right up. I'm also going to add my grandfather, her husband, Charles. So we're going to type him in there, pick him from the list. He's a junior. And it turns out I didn't put the tag on exactly the right spot. I want it to be right on where they lived. So I can actually change that. Let's come back into the photo. If I come back later and go, I want to move that, all I have to do is click on my grandfather. So here's Arcade. There, we've zeroed in on Arcade. Excellent. This is right around where their house was on the 109 block, 108. Okay, so click on my grandfather. That's going to show me, see where that little tag box was? I can move that. I'm going to click and drag that. I'm going to drop it right over to kind of highlight that area, and also my grandmother. Don't want to leave her behind. And I'm going to show here that it's ED. I think it's 8 here. Awesome. So we have tagged our ancestor to the image while enhancing the image, making it easier to read, and it just gives us another look at their neighborhood. I love the context of our family history. And the 5th thing that you can do is, and I really encourage you to do this, download the Enumerator instructions. Okay. This is the reference manual. It's about 24 pages, and it's the manual that told the census taker what to do and how they were supposed to mark things on the page. So you can download it. Like I said, it's just 25 pages, very specific instructions. So here's the thing: as you're looking through the census records, when they become available, you're going to see marks and notations and things. You might see a field that gets left blank, and you're like, well, why did they leave it blank? These instructions are going to explain all of it. So this is a nice time to kind of read through it and get familiar with it and see what they were asking and some of the reasons behind it. And what if you read this through and then when the records come out, wow, they're going to make so much more sense. Because if we understand the why behind the information that we're finding on the 1950 census, we're going to be far more likely to interpret it correctly. And that is really important with any kind of genealogical source document. Understanding and gathering up anything that we can learn about its creation, who created it, the stated purpose, all of that helps us by far better understand, interpret, and utilize the information that we're finding. So you can go to the Census Bureau website, and it's census.gov. Super easy. Go and you can download that today and start reading and getting familiar with it. And here's just an example what I mean by the difference it's going to make for you as you're working with the 1950 census. In 1940, and you can go and check this out yourself over at MyHeritage, go pull up one of your ancestors' 1940 census records. You'll notice these X marks with circles around them. And they're just random here and there. This is the person who actually provides the information to the census enumerator. And how do we know that? Because in the 1940 census enumerator instructions, it states enter X in a circle after the name of the person furnishing the information. So without these instructions, you might see that and not realize what it means. But it really makes a difference. Because when we see that, here, this person under Otto, so Otto is the head, that's the husband. The wife is the one who's giving the information. So we know that for her, we would assume it's about as accurate as it's going to get. But if she had, as she says here, Fayette Woods is looks like a boarder or brother-in-law, a brother-in-law. She may not know all of his details completely accurately, where he works or if he lost his job last week, or, who knows how much he's coming and going in the household. If she has boarders, if she's renting out rooms, again, she's going to provide the information, but that really helps us decide how much weight to give it, doesn't it? Understanding what that means. In 1950, you're going to see some unique things as well. And here's just one example of that. So in 1950, people were really on the move. The war had ended. In World War II's, the war had ended. The highway systems were being built in the United States. People had a little bit more spending money. They were out and about. They were a moving population. And they knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge, that people were on the road. So they designated a specific night, Tuesday, April 11th of 1950. And the census enumerator was to cover in a single night the occupants of certain places usually devoted to transients, such as hotels, YMCAs, tourist courts, and camps. If you remember as a kid, driving around in the U.S., oftentimes you'd stay at, they'd call it a tourist camp. And it'd be like little cabins, particularly out west. We had a lot of those. So the YMCA, my gosh, they had over 100,000 rooms. And this was a very popular place for young men to stay as they were moving around and looking for work and things after the war. So the next morning after this, then from 7 a.m. to noon, they went back. And in that time frame, from the 11th in the afternoon to evening, and the next morning, they were to cover all of them. And on the 13th, they headed to the missions and the flop houses. And the enumerators, they stationed themselves at the entrance or in the lobby of the facility, and they were instructed to interview the guests personally, as well as the resident staff and the employees. And they had a special ICR form. And the person themselves was to fill it out, because a lot of times in these locations, it wasn't very private. So instead of the census taker taking it, you're actually having the person themselves fill it out. But not everybody could, or not everybody was available or didn't show up that night or whenever they were there. So if they couldn't make contact with those individuals, then they were to fill out the ICR based on the hotel register information. So remember, we were talking about how much weight to give something? It makes a difference if it's coming off the register versus you're getting it straight from the person themselves. So you might be seeing REG in capital letters on the 1950 census. And that indicates that the information about your ancestor was taken from a register, from a hotel, from a YMCA, from a flop house, or perhaps it could have been also from the staff who would represent the register and not the individual themselves. So you would kind of take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, wouldn't you? So the reference manual really helps us understand this. And speaking again of the instructions, was anybody in your family born between January and March of 1950? If they were, then there was a very special infant card completed just for them. And this came to my attention reading the census enumerator instructions as I was preparing for this. So as there's a whole big section, it's probably the biggest section in the reference manual, talking about these infant cards. So I did a little bit of digging and I found a copy of the infant card online. Now, again, we don't know yet if these are going to be released, if they're going to be available, if they're going to be at MyHeritage, or whether they'll be at the National Archives. I don't have the inside scoop on that, but what I do know is I'm going to keep my eyes out for that, because there's some really great and very specific information: the age of the mother and the last birthday, the education of the mother, name of the hospital, so all kinds of details. And you'd be surprised how many children were born between January and March of 1950. So keep an eye out for that. And if you're fortunate enough to eventually get your hands on one, you're going to be able to read through the instruction manual and really be able to interpret that card correctly. So that's the 1950 census prep. Let's get ready to rock and roll. I think you're a lot more ready to go than you were even just a half an hour ago. And you have a checklist of really great concrete things that you can do. To follow up, if you want to learn a lot more about the history of the 1950 census, and I go into a lot more detail in my 11s is with Lisa show over at YouTube, and the video is episode number 51. It's also available on my website, genealogygems.com/11s. I think it's a fascinating census. So many new innovations were happening at that time, and I've got all the inside scoop on that. So if you want to learn more about 1950 census in general and the history of it, go watch that video. And there's a full page of show notes with everything typed up for you. And if you want to dig deeper into the questions themselves, if you want to read every single question, you don't have to mess with that little, reading them all in the form, and get some of the backstory on the purpose behind some of those questions, check out episode 53. And I dig deeply into that as well. And if you'd like to stay in touch with me, I would encourage you to head over to my website and sign up for my free e-newsletter. And I have a little free ebook that you get as a bonus for doing that. So that's it. I'm going to invite Esther back, and let's see if you've got any questions that I can answer for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lisa, and just such great information, amazing tips. I see a lot of great comments here in the comments section. Dina says, how genius to enhance the image and to tag it. And I couldn't believe that was such a great tip.
Yeah, I was excited. And, it's funny, when I first did it, I didn't realize, because I knew there wasn't a face in the image. Oh, I could still move the box over right on top of where the house was. So there's a lot we can do.
Yeah, brilliant. So if anyone has any questions for Lisa, just put them in the comments section, and hopefully we can get to them today. We do have a couple. Here, I'll just start with the first one from Janet. Janet says, I have found that my 6th cousin once removed, John Wayne, born Marion Mitchell Morrison, and I share a common ancestor, Mary Bliss Parsons. Mary was twice accused, twice tried, and twice acquitted of witchcraft. I see that was actually a comment, not a question.
I was going to say probably not in 1950 though, maybe in the 1600s. How cool to be related to John Wayne though.
Yeah, I mean, finding all these discoveries that we see here in the comment section, so many great, so many great comments here of people that have uncovered things in historical records, whether it be in census records or in other historical record collections. We did put a link in the comment section to 2 other exciting record sets that we added this week to MyHeritage.
And Esther, Pat has a question. She says she's having trouble finding the enumerator instructions for 1950. So Pat, what I would recommend, and all of you, if you go to genealogygems.com/11s, and 11s is in the menu. Episode 53 was when I did the whole big kind of history of 1950, and there is a link on that page for you to get you directly, because it's kind of a long, complicated link. But it will take you to the exact page on that website to get the instructions.
Okay, fantastic. I have a question for you, actually, Lisa. What is the most exciting thing that you've uncovered in a census record?
Oh, gosh. I think probably the most thrilling one that I ever had was I was looking for my great-great-grandfather, and he'd kind of been thrown out of the house. He'd gotten my great-great-grandmother pregnant, and I couldn't find him anywhere, and his name wasn't being spelled quite right. But as I was digging through and looking up his uncles, sure enough, he was living at his uncle's house, and it opened up a whole new area geographically where to look as well. So it's just, sometimes the most exciting is the one that you've just racked your brain over and you think you're not going to find it, and then there it is.
Amazing. We have a question here from Jacob, who says, my mother arrived to the U.S. with her parents from Germany in or around 1950. They lived in Providence, Rhode Island for a year or 2. Where can I look to see if they were in the 1950 census? And he says, my mother was around 2 years old.
Right. Well, okay. So the census records themselves will be in April. So you'll be able to look specifically there. But one of the things you can do before then is to maybe look and see at MyHeritage if we have city directories. That's a really nice year by year kind of record. And there's a lot of fantastic city directories at MyHeritage. Plus that new newspaper index, you were just talking about that, Esther. People get mentioned in the newspapers. They've arrived. Maybe they've now landed at a relative's home in Providence, who knows? And that could be reported in the newspaper. So kind of check out that list of different items and try to get one as close as possible during that time frame and see if maybe you get lucky and get an address. Otherwise, you've got April to look forward to.
Susan says, I've had issues with misspelled names and finding records. It helps to search alternate spellings. So do you have tips for that issue?
Oh, she's absolutely right. I know with the new user interface on the search at MyHeritage, we've got a little more filtering that we can do, some more options. So take advantage of that. And I have several names actually right around that 1950 time where I've seen that name 5 different ways. So one thing I do is in my research log, I'll just make note right there to remind myself, I need to not just check the main name, but I want to make sure I'm checking through all of them and then go through and do those. And you can use some of the wildcards to kind of help substitute. So I think that new filtering system is really going to help with name variations. And you can mark it if it's exact, or take that exact little tick box off and make it not exact so you get more flexibility in the results.
Okay, Judy asks, will all the reports and documents be released at the same time?
Well, I don't know, because my guess is somebody in my heritage probably knows this, but my understanding is that the National Archives itself has them all. They're digitizing them. I believe it will probably be one big dump. I think that's how it worked in 1940. So while the images become available at the National Archives, I'm assuming that they will be almost immediately available, perhaps over my heritage, although I don't know personally. But it's the index. From there, we're waiting for the indexing that has to happen, and there's probably many creative ways. And I know for the 1940 census 10 years ago, wow, they got that done in record time. We didn't even have to wait a year. It was just a couple of months, and everybody joined in. So I would expect that we'll very quickly within just a few months, be able to start name searching too.
I remember it was such a celebration when the 1940 census came out. It was incredible.
It's huge. Yeah.
Wow. So this one is equally exciting. Great. So we would like to now gift a MyHeritage complete plan to one lucky winner. Thank you to everyone who wrote in and left some amazing comments. So many really nice stories there. And we really appreciate seeing those because they really, they make us feel grateful for everything that we're able to do and all the historical records that we are able to add to MyHeritage, that they're really providing people with answers and more information about their ancestors. So it's really incredible to see. So thank you everyone who wrote in. And our winner today is Walter Hazler, and he actually hails from Texas as well, Lisa.
Yes. Congratulations, Walter.
And Walter wrote to us and said, hello from Texas. I just discovered a branch of my Rusnak ancestors line, not from historical records, but from an online user's MyHeritage tree. And through this, I made a connection to a third time's first cousin living in Prague. So that's incredible. That's a great story, and congratulations on the newfound family, Walter. And we'll be in touch with you through private message to claim your MyHeritage complete plan. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Esther. It's been a lot of fun. We have a lot to look forward to. Wonderful to see everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone in our audience. We hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.